one, and string.
Cool.
All right, so I see us as live. We're a little bit late this morning. Technical difficulties.
That's okay. The world spins. Welcome, everybody. We are Kody and Adam, and this is our show, Kody and Adam.
Yep, we are technical coaches, agile coaches, coaches in general, whatever you want to word from Industrial Logic. We wanted to spend some time on our weekends doing some live coding, some pair programming, some ensemble programming. We get guests essentially showcasing some craftsmanship-like projects, or process, not project, process.
Yeah.
And
Honestly, we just want to have fun. Me and Adam write code together quite a bit. Having more reasons to do that is always great. So, it's really stoked to spend more time writing some software and hanging out with some cool people in the community. So, looking forward to doing this.
yeah, all right. So we wanted to start off with Pascal's Triangle. We're seeing the discovery tree and the description of the problem.
Yeah. Um, so Pascal's good old triangle here is an interesting mathematical structure, I think. I don't know. I sort of have a math major, but don't ask me. Um, and we're going to just write a little fun little problem about how can we create, like, given a number of rows, because you can see it's kind of like a tree-based structure. And if we say as we go down that is a row, kind of like that diagram in the bottom right, we want to create that entire tree. So we're going to program that, and I think it's going to be fun because I haven't done graph-based questions in a million years. If that's even what it is. But
Yeah,
so maybe just to really talk it through. So for no rows, we wouldn't get anything back. And maybe what we're showing right now on the tree here, this little 3 triangles, is our discovery tree. And a discovery tree is a nice way for us to kind of like brainstorm through the problem, talk about all the things that we think we might need. And as we keep working on it, and we discover more things, we can add it to the tree. And we kind of see that tree itself ebbs and flows. So for now, I think, Adam, if you're good with that, why don't we start adding to that discovery tree?
sounds great. Looking at our problem, and what the output's expected is a two-dimensional array. Looking at this kind of sticky here, we need to at least be able to produce that given an input. So is our first kind of discovery tree is maybe just a 0th row.
Yeah, 0th row returns us an empty list. That's pretty easy. That sounds like a
Yeah, input is 0.
Yep.
Output would be
Empty
empty
list.
array.
Yeah. And I think maybe this is a classic pattern of the 0, then the 1, then the 2. So it might just make sense for the next thing we do to be the 1 row, which is just the number 1.
Well, it's actually going to be a
Oh,
two-dimensional array with one node, right?
yeah, exactly. So it's a little more complicated.
Yeah, jumping up there in complexity.
And
So
then,
then
yeah,
the
I mean,
way
we
we
could
get
probably
those
leave it at
inner
that.
nodes is we add. Yeah.
The inner nodes are going to be weird. So maybe even getting that done, I think we're going to start to discover some of the ideas inside of that and kind of go from there.
I really like our hard-coded approach here. So if we just say, maybe we start super simple on this output of second row. Output is 2.
Okay.
Excuse me. Output can be, what if we just hard code it to be 1 and then like 1x1 and 1 and x is just being hard coded to know that we can produce the second row.
I like that idea, actually. Yep, because then we're kind of like we're putting in
Extra
there that we
text.
don't actually know what
Third
that
row.
is. Yeah. Okay. I think we can at that point break the problem down a little bit more. So I'm good to go from what we got right now and just start writing it, and we can kind of come back if we're cool with that.
Yeah, and that's actually the third row looking back at it because the second row here is 1 1.
Oh yeah, so it's
So one
one,
two one doesn't come in.
one,
Yeah.
one.
But I think yeah, let's do this and come back and
Yeah.
all right. So we're gonna be here in WebStorm. We've got a basic TypeScript project here just with a basic test and function to make sure we're hooked up and able to run tests, able to run code in a good way. Look at that. We can add 1 plus 2.
Yeah, I'm glad that still runs. We're having a bunch of issues with OBS prior to this. Cool.
Yes, Mr. S.R. Baker, we're choosing TypeScript.
Yeah. We might and to for those watching, programming language is not static. We're gonna mess around with a bunch of different programming languages, but I think just at first we're gonna do some TypeScript. We've been writing little bit of TypeScript recently together. Just kind of makes sense. All right. So I guess before we start talking about our ways of working, Adam, do you want to do a little bit of TDD ping pong style of pairing?
Yeah,
Are you cool with that?
yeah, that's the
Um,
style I enjoy most.
yeah, and for those watching, like TDD ping pong, well, first TDD is test driven development. We're writing the test first, red. We're then making the test pass in the simplest possible way, green, and then we're refactoring. And with TDD ping pong, what we try to do is write a failing test, and then once it actually fails, rotate who's the one typing, and then we make the test pass, maybe do a little bit of refactoring, and then that person would then make a new failing test, and then the rotation would occur. And it makes more sense probably just seeing it happen. But love that.
Yeah. We'll start with just Pascal's Triangle produces an empty list. So
Love
I
it.
think this is gonna be expect. How do we like generate triangle as in a
I think that's a great name for now.
with
Um,
0?
it takes in the number of rows and it equals an empty array. All right.
So save, and then I'm gonna hit Command R to run our tests. Oh, look at that, I broke.
Yep. And it fails to compile because it doesn't know what generate triangle is. Cool.
All right.
And now as we rotate. Now we have a failing test, and I'm going to do the simplest possible thing to make it pass. So I'm going to Option Enter here to get the context menu, and I'm going to create the function just from the ID. And the thing that we're doing right now, we test on the left, code on the right, generated the function. It does generate in the test, but then I can just easily just first export this and throw this over in the production file. And we can just get rid of add. I don't need this. So noise. Okay, cool. And now to make this actual pass, I guess even making it move to the next step. I don't know why it's not getting rid of that. We could run this. And now we're getting expect the empty array to be it's getting undefined because we're not returning anything. So now we can just return an empty list. And that should pass. And it doesn't. Wow, that's fun. So it's probably because they're different. So this is where we're going to need to use to deep equal in Mocha Chai. Remember correctly? It's been a while since we used Mocha Chai. And that is how it works, ladies and gentlemen.
Glad you know Mocha Chai. It's been a long time since I've had to do that kind of syntax.
Yeah, it's probably only 2 years since I've used it, but that's okay. You don't forget weird things like that, apparently.
Yeah. I think this is a commit point. We're passing. We're green.
Yeah. Sorry, I was gonna go drink my coffee. Okay, go down here, and now we're going to. We got to test passing. Well, let's commit. Um, add a zeroth case of Pascal Triangle. I don't know. What is that a good
Yeah.
name?
Well, when it comes to commit message, you know me, I like the why of the commit, not necessarily the what the commit is. Because if we're
Mhm.
doing small commits, we should be able to tell what the commit's doing by reading the code diff if we care.
Yeah.
But this is a simple case. It's probably hard to know why. Like we're just getting started.
To make Adam happy.
Pretty
Um,
much.
I'll push, and we're good. All
Yeah.
right.
But it's ping
And
pong style now, so it's your turn.
yeah, so now let's write the next failing test, which was one generates that, which we'll just say produces first row for number of rows 1. So if we put in 1, we expect this now to be another list with 1 inside of it. If I save and run the test, it's going to fail because we got an empty array being passed.
Dang. And so the nice thing about here is I can't simply do this anymore
Nope.
because we're triangulating. We've got two tests that allow me to actually have to implement this in a smarter way rather than just the simplest way to pass the existing test.
Mm-hmm.
So the simplest solution is
It's underscore
if,
underscore file name.
yeah, number is equal to 1. Now I can say return 1.
Yep.
And that's super simple.
Simple.
Obviously not the correct implementation, but it passes our test. So we need more tests to make it smarter. I'm curious if we see, well, we're green, so we need to do a commit for sure. But while I do that, what refactors do you see?
So I think we got some bad variable, or we have some variable names we could improve. I think we could flippity flop the guard clause because I would feel like the zeroth case comes first before the 1th case. Putting it straight in my brain.
Okay, I
Um,
like that. So can we flip if else? Look at that.
yes.
ID is helping us.
Besides the not equals, and then now you can make that. Yeah, I like that a lot better.
Yeah, because if it equals 0, that's going to be the case that stands out because we're going to keep adding rows. And so making the 0 the guard clause, I think, is going to stay around for a lot longer. I love that.
Yeah, agreed. And just running the test too, that still passes. We used some
It
a
does.
little bit of automated refactorings there, along with some manual removing of the block.
So if we're going to add this, this is a refactor to make 0 case the guard clause.
Sweet. And then I think number, that actually is number of rows.
So row count.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I think that's better than verbose number of rows.
Love
Cool.
that. So that was an automated refactor. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control R just to make sure. Look at that. We have test passed.
And for those watching, if you're curious, if we don't like explicitly say what shortcut we're doing, because a lot of the automated refactorings, we're doing a lot of shortcuts in WebStorm. We actually have a plugin that's really cool too. That at the bottom of the screen it calls out what shortcut we're running, just like right there, Command 4. So I find that super nice to help learn some of those because once you learn those shortcuts, you blaze through writing code.
Yeah. I actually like this idea of adding a return type that WebStorm's calculated dynamically for us, but I almost want us to be explicit. Because I think it'd
Yeah,
help us too. We may end up having some types evolve from that.
I like that.
So
Yeah,
if you don't mind, I might just go ahead and add. Oh, too many.
lowercase number.
Ah, yes, lowercase number. We're not proper.
Nope. Number.
So adding that return case shouldn't break anything. There we go. Notice that we've done 3 very small commits just in these small refactors. Um, add return type key function. Any other refactors before we move on to the next test that we see?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I'm noticing a small bit of duplication here, but maybe as the third one comes about, we can
Yeah,
start to get.
that's a fair point. There is a lot of setup that's the same, and it's very noisy to see what is the core of what we're doing.
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm good for with us being impartial to it. We wait till the third time, and then we'll actually remove the duplication.
reduces expected rows for input of 2.
Mhm.
So actually, might as well
Yeah.
not. And so this is going to look like a fat, correct?
Mhm. Exactly. Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and do a control R. We have a failure, which means it's your turn.
All right. And I think the same way you did this makes the most sense. So if we just do if row count is 2, we're going to return hard code the return. So 1 1, and that should make all the tests pass. Maybe if I remember how the output was, it would make pass. But now it passes. Um, and now what we could do, well, I think we commit because we need the test pass. And then I think there's a
Yeah,
question of, is there any refactorings we foresee that we think? But first, add um, generate um, with row count 2. Okay. All right. Is there any refactorings that we see that we would like to do? Or moving on.
so I'm picking up a pattern here of right. If row count is 0, it's an empty. If it's 1, we get a 1 with an element of 1, and 2 is actually an array of 2 1s.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if there's an easier way to simplify uh, building each row and like concatenating them together into a final array or something. But if that's too big of a refactor, that might be too much.
And I think that's the core of the problem too, right? Like if we look at
Yeah,
that diagram, it's kind of like it's a tree that it starts with a root, which is kind of an empty list, and then starts to like form and build.
yeah.
Um, and what's interesting is, we did the simplest possible solution here, but it's funny how it's almost easier to see now that we hard coded the first 3 inputs. But yeah, I think there is something like that.
Even
Um,
then, we know if we look at the tree too, the first 2 are never going to change. Are they with variables or constants? Just first row we know is an array of 1, and second row is 1 1. There's no addition. There's none of the math available. None of the math needed. To me, they're kind of special rows because they're not going to get into the at row 3. You're finally going to add the 2 1s.
yeah,
So to me, they
yeah. So
still
why
may
don't
be a
we?
constant.
What's the small step approach for us to get to that? Because I see the pattern too, and I'm struggling to see what's the first seem to
Well,
do
what
that.
if we just extract, we see one duplication of just an array of one,
Oh yeah, the array of
and
one is
yeah,
definitely duplication. Yeah.
yeah. So let's just extract that to a variable as first row.
Okay, and yeah, I'm using the shortcut here, extract variable, and actually it's seeing that there's a duplication already too, which is really nice. So I just boop, and I can say first row. It was all automated, very safe. We run the tests. Even still, if I'm paranoid, they still pass. And now we could, move this where we want. We could put it up here if we want. Um, Still passes.
Do we want to move it outside the function?
Yeah, I'm fine with doing that for now. There we go. And with that, I think it's rid of some duplication. So we can say extract first row to remove duplication. Now we're getting to that. Why are we doing this? With refactors, it's a lot easier to say why you're doing something. It's usually to a refactor in and of itself. You're trying to change the structure for some kind of benefit or removing of a code smell. Okay.
I think that means on the left we have two first rows that if we want to export, it might read a little bit over our tests, or no? Do we want to be explicit in our tests?
mm,
More explicit.
let's try it. I don't know. Down for trying it. So it would be first row, first row. I think the only thing that bothers me about it is we're not doing it for 1-1, so it's kind of like an oddball in
Hmm.
the test output. So I think that's why I maybe don't like it. But what do you think?
I mean, I think I would argue that 1-1 should be a second row again because if there's no math involved, I think they're going to be pretty constant. It's not, we don't get till third row till we get us some calculations.
That's a fair point. Okay, let's try that too then. And I will. I'm fine doing that as another small little change. So I can extract variable. Actually, you know what? We were passing. I'm gonna save. Why did it? Weird. I extracted the variable and added a block. Interesting. Okay, so
Is
test
that hit
pass.
Control R? Yeah, there we go.
I'm gonna just use first row in test. Okay, and now let's extract that second row. Now
Oh,
we
it put it in a
can.
block because it put it in the if statement. That's
Yep,
why.
that makes sense. And we can get rid of the block easily. We could just come here and just say. Um,
You have to put your cursor on the, yeah, there you go. Remove
so if you
braces.
put your cursor here, Option Enter for context menu, we can remove braces from if statement. And if we were doing a bunch of complicated stuff, braces are really nice. But really, when we're making a guard clause, again, something that if this condition occurs, get me out of here. I think we should really strive to just make that one line. It should be really simple and easy to read. Um, okay, so now we're doing that. I'm then just good in the same change, just kind of doing this and getting rid of there.
Yeah.
I like that. Now that it's uniform, I see it being beneficial because it definitely is. It's always the same.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to commit, and then we can maybe go back to the Discovery tree and see what we want to do next. Um,
Yeah. Discovery tree
sure.
is our funny way of saying discovery tree.
Next second row, use it in tests to remove duplication. All right, let's look at that Discovery tree. If I look at the right one.
Yeah. So we're gonna mark these as green, because green is kind of our thing is done. We have our input of 2 is even done.
Yep. So if we look at the diagram right above, we see we've done there's the 0th row. I mean, they're just doing programming terms. I don't like that, but let's say, no rows, 1 row and 2 row. We have this structure. But now we get into the complicated part where, yes, the middle row is actually using the values above.
So middle value is 2.
Yes.
Added 2 numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe again, since I did take it, maybe we just hard code the output to
Yeah, to
X.
triangulate adding.
I think so.
Yep. And when we're talking about triangulation too, we're saying with
X.
test-driven development, sometimes like if you basically hard code simple as possible, given an input, here's a hard coded output, and then try to do the same thing a second time, like we did a little bit earlier, it forces you then to actually write the implementation. And then there's no guessing if you've actually implemented it correctly because you have two completely different test cases that are like fighting for each other to go to both pass. And it's much easier than arguing about the code because if it's green, then it works.
Yeah, so quick introducing colors here. Orange is in progress, yellow isn't started, green is done. And so as you see here, we're working on input is 3. First step, we decided to do that hard code, make it simple as possible, and then we can try to see if there's a pattern or easy way to get a hold of those 2,
Mm-hmm.
which is nice. See if we can find that pattern. Anything else you want to add? Any notes? Any other
No,
trees,
I think we're good.
leaves?
I just wanted to make sure we're on the same page, and this makes things a little bit easier to see.
Yeah. It is still your turn to do some refactorings and or write the next failing test for you to drive.
Yes, give me 1 second here.
Sure. I will say, I think the one nice thing for our tests, it would be nice to, I think,
Ooh,
have a var method to kind of build this.
actually, yeah. Why don't we do that first? And I'm okay if you want to just rotate now too, because I've been driving for quite a bit. I think the last 3 commits I did. So if you want to take it, I
That's
actually
fine.
think there's not just a var thing, but we can extract an assert method. Because really all we're doing is the method's always the same, generate triangle.
That's
So if
true.
we had if we just extracted a test method that the first input was the input and the second input was the output, and all the Mocha Chai things go away, it might be easier to even read.
Yeah. Do you want to extract the method first and parameterize it, or do you want to do parameters first and then do?
Either way, I think
I'm a fan of method first because it makes sure that we grab the correct thing. I'm gonna make a global method here, and what do we want to call this? Expect
um,
uh,
expect um,
correct triangle generation.
yeah,
Triangle. How about just expect
I expect
correct
correct
triangle?
triangle. Yeah, I think it's good. We
All right,
can make it better later.
we can. That's passing. I could commit here, but I'm kind of thinking I want to do the quick
Yeah,
parameter
do,
check.
do the whole thing. I think that's fine.
All right, so parameters command option P. We're going to do row count. Notice how it does
Yeah,
default.
kind of control Z. You can if you don't do the default, it'll yeah.
Ah, see that little check mark pops up. Optional parameter. We don't want it optional.
And now it actually
And
puts it
that
in the
way, yeah. And then this is the other thing that changes. So we want to do that as well. And expected angle. Yeah, so now this reads a lot better. Expected correct triangle. 2 and first row, second row. I'm going to go ahead and control R. Look at that. Passes.
sweet.
We're going to extract test method to to increase clarity of what is changing in tests. We can push this. And I think we just want to use this up here, change this to 1, and delete the first row. We think that's the same. I'm going to hit Control
Yep.
R. Hey, tests are passing. It's such an easy change. I'm actually thinking I'll do both of them.
Yeah, go for it.
So Command D to duplicate, and then change it to 0, and delete first row, delete
Yeah,
that,
this reads a
and
lot better. Yeah, I like this too.
yeah, and then the small thing is we like a newspaper style, which means you should read top to bottom, and you should run into things as you get there. So tests are more important than the test method right now, so we want to read this first and then go down and figure out what it's doing. Awesome. So those are tests. Passing. So check in. This is
Extract.
remove by using test methods.
Love it. And I think one thing I just want to say here, like, because I think it was very like what we did was super easy and maybe didn't change a lot, but I'd say there's actually a huge benefit in what we just did, which is now that our tests are a little more decoupled from the structure of the production code. So if we wanted to actually change, let's say, the method name generate triangle to something else, we would only have one place in the tests where we actually would have to change that name. And yes, the IDE can automatically update those names. But let's say we added a second parameter. Um, I've seen code bases like fall to their knees when you have like what we kind of had, but to a scale of 10x or 100x more, where there's hundreds of tests all coupled to one interface. Um, so I think like we're kind of encapsulating here, along with so like duplication is evil. And there's a little bit of duplication that's okay in tests, but I do think what we just did is totally worth it and sets us up for a lot of other benefits.
Yeah. And actually, I kind of like the idea of what if we simplify this as well and make we have the first number, but then this can be var arg.
Yeah, I'd be okay with trying that. Yeah, let's do it.
So what do we think that looks like? So it's dot dot dot, and then typically it's just denoted as a
It'd
number
be
array.
it would be exactly the same thing. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yep, no, you're good. Yep.
So I think I want to do this. I need that comma back.
Yeah.
And why is this one not happy?
Because it still is a array. It's so you're not doing
Oh,
because the var arg itself is what makes the array. Um,
yeah, you're right. You're right.
yeah.
But
And then the first one would be nothing. It would be 0, gets us nothing, which I think actually has a. I actually think we lose a little bit of test readability by doing this. Um,
I'm fine with that. And actually, it's broken.
yeah. Okay, because you've wrapped it
It's
again
fine.
in another array on line 22. Like the var arg itself wraps it in an array. So now all the tests will pass
Got it.
except for the first one, because the first one, if we're doing var arg, should be nothing. Um, which I'm okay with. I do think it was a little bit easier to read. There's a trade off. It's like right now it's easier to read the first way, but as we keep going, it'll be bigger. So I don't know.
Yeah. So get check out that. Look, we experimented, we learned, we thought about it. And
Yeah,
quick and easy.
cool.
All right. And you want me to write the next test?
Yeah, that sounds good to
Technically,
me.
I think it is your turn now.
That is true.
All right. Don't stop. I'm gonna let you go.
Okay, so um, test names are also starting to get a little. It produces third row for number. I'm just gonna say produces third row.
Cool.
Yeah. Row count 3, and then it's gonna be first row, second row, and then it's going to be 1, and then we were going to say X, but we have a number here, so we can't really put a number.
Two.
Can we do 0 for now?
Sure.
Um,
-1. Zero's
negative
fine.
1.
Zero's
I'm
fine.
fine.
Zero is
Okay.
fine.
Yeah. We're using 0 right now as a marker to say, hey, we got to implement that. And that fails. So time to rotate. And test writing is way easier now.
It is. All right. 101. And that passes.
Nice.
Add hard-coded solution for row 3.
All right.
Where do we want to go from here?
I think we just rip the band-aid off and try to solve for 2. So, and I think like we have the value hard coded. So can we, if we change the test to just have 1, 2, 1, the test, not the, this is what we want, is getting there. Is there a smaller step we could take for this?
I don't think so.
There can be, but it's a little bit of design thinking, and I think I'd rather we're kind of going outside in right now, and I'm fine with us trying to go for it. So, so really 0 is we're taking second row 0 plus second row 1 and adding them together. I'm even fine if we hard code the hard coded 2 to that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Second row 0 plus second row 1.
It's a small step in the right direction.
Yeah. Okay, and that works because I mean that's ends up being what it is, but
Yeah, I mean I think that's a good basic addition calculation. And I think this is probably the beauty of TDD, right? Is we could probably sit here and try to think about fourth row, fifth row, sixth row, and come up with a pattern that works right now. Or we could just write the next test for the fourth row, do a simple hard-coded addition like this, and see what pattern emerges, see what we can extract and refactor.
and with that, I think I finally have an idea for how we can start because we don't really want all these guard clauses. The guard clauses are just there because we're trying to really just triangulate and understand the pattern here.
Yep.
But I think I
Yep.
finally have a good idea. If you're willing to try it, Adam.
Of course.
So the only thing prerequisite it's going to consider needs us to have is can we make line 9 an if statement? So line 9 is technically if row count equals 1, return first row.
Row count triple equals 1, return.
And then just at the bottom of the file, just return empty list. Just because we need to return something. Okay, and if we run the test, this passes. And this is just a temporary thing just to make what the thing I want to change. So now if we actually extract that empty array on line 11 as a variable.
Variable.
Yep.
2 occurrences.
Yeah, why not? And just call it triangle, I guess is what we're calling this thing. And okay, it needs the type, so they're going to put in number, which we can extract a type out maybe afterwards. For now, one thing at a time.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I like that
And then
idea.
one
All right,
thing at a time.
Yep, I'm gonna run tests. We're green.
Now delete line 6. So delete the 0th case. Run the test. And they pass. Okay. So I think what we're going to do is start to, instead of us guard clausing it, if we add to this list, we kind of do the same thing and it ends up getting us to the point where we're starting to dynamically generate this list instead of hard coding the values.
Okay, so I like this as a commit. Um, Move to begin. We're gonna say begin moving to singular return statement because that's kind of where we're going.
Kind of. It's funny I'm advocating for that because I really don't like the singular return statement rule that a lot of people try to enforce. But it gets us going in the right direction, I think.
I think so too. I did like your idea of is this worth a quick type alias?
I do. I think so because we've had to use it 3 times now. There's one in the test too.
That's fine. We'll get there.
Um,
What do we want to call this? Do we just want to call it Pascal's Triangle?
yes, but putting the quote in there is going to be weird. So just Pascal triangle. Oh yeah, with an S. Yeah, yeah. I like Pascal's triangle. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And for those of us that may not know what a type alias is, do you want to give it? You can do that quick explanation while I.
Yeah, we're basically just making it now. So instead of having to remember that the type is an array of array, which is very primitive value, type alias basically says whenever you use this keyword, it means the same thing as the other thing. Um, you can get into like in TypeScript, you can do a lot of crazy stuff with type aliases where actually checks and variants too. Like you can say, oh, it's a string that has only these values. Um, but I think right now we're doing a very low effort way of just kind of showing our intent that, hey, this generate triangles returning what we expect a Pascal's triangle to represent, which is a number array. Now we have that idea encapsulated in one place. So again, if we wanted to change the structure, we wouldn't have to update the type in 4 places. We only have to update it in one.
It's also really nice because intelligence or IntelliJ or whatever you want to call it, the helper, I can now hit PT and get page transition, but not Pascal's. Oh, wow, I've not even seen it. Okay, but intelligence should help us with this type Pascal's triangle more than it will help us with number double array.
Steve wrote
Should.
triangle in the
Agreement.
chat, and it made me second guess that he typed it in wrong 3 times. Sorry.
Do you want to just call it triangle? Is that what he's
I don't know. He just the way that he wrote it made me felt like we spelled it wrong, but we didn't. It's good. We're good.
I think he's also he's suggesting we just call it triangle.
Yeah, I'm
I'm
okay
I'm
calling it
close to it.
triangle too. Yeah, let's do it. I think we're in the domain of it's Pascal's triangle, so I'm good with that.
Yeah.
And we called the variable that, so I'm cool with that too.
Well, yeah. Well,
Thanks,
that and
Stephen,
we
for this
call
idea.
generate triangle. We return triangle. Makes sense. If we're generating a triangle, we should return the triangle. All right. That's a small refactor. Um, Encapsulate number array into its own type.
Cool. So now I think we can do the same kind of change we did with the 0th guard clause case and make it so we're actually kind of just mutating this triangle list. Um,
You want to do this one first?
and I'm trying to think if that's
Single out of
actually.
row.
It is because it gets rid of some duplication. So yeah, I would say
So instead of row, we want to say triangle dot push
yes,
first row.
and just let's leave it at that and then run the test. We should see that works.
It's going to break.
Nope.
Oh no, yeah, because it's equal to one specifically. Yeah.
Okay, so now if we so now let's try doing the same thing for row 2, leaving the duplication of first row and second row. Yeah, we can go first too. That's fine. Yeah.
Yep. And I think that's my third commit, so I'm gonna pass
Yeah,
off so
you
you do
rotate.
some typing in.
Yep. So triangle dot push. So I think this is the which can take in multiple arguments. So I think if we do this and just kind of just change all of these to just be doing this first, and I'm okay just
Yeah.
going on to the next one too.
No,
Um,
yeah, yeah.
triangle dot push, and I'm actually going to one thing at a time.
I'll say prettier might call that a
Oh,
line, too
prettier
long of a
doesn't.
line.
And it's a long line. I think that's the next thing I'd like to change. But okay, first we've done this, so now we can commit and say um, um, replace returning with mutation of list. Um, okay. And now I would just this thing is just terrible
Too
looking.
many. Oh
Uh,
no, you want the whole? Okay, yeah. You grab the whole array.
well, actually, you know what? It's going to go away. So I think what I was getting at now was we have duplication, first row, first row, first row. So if we just make this greater than one, or greater than equal. Ooh, look at that! You got a fancy little font there. Greater than or equal to one. Maybe.
Oh, yeah, it's ligatures. Ligatures.
Um,
Yeah, I think Baker's catching on too. He says the iteration lets me see a simpler solution.
nice. And now we see I by doing this greater than or equal to one, we actually see that we're passing in one twice. So that gets rid of what I wanted to get rid of, which is this duplication.
What's
Now
up,
we see
commit?
we only have one first row, and I think we do the same thing. And like row 1 and 2 are kind of like the base case, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I don't know. We're kind of figuring out the algorithm, but okay. Um, remove first row duplication. Um,
It's worth calling out those fancy symbols. It is called ligatures. It is a feature of WebStorm. Uh, we can turn it off, but it's there to help.
okay.
Maybe reduce noise. Maybe look more
Same
mathematical.
same thing. Failure because it's actually interesting that it's not showing the full array, but it's because the second row is being duplicated as well. Now we're at a part two where one prettier is playing along, but we're actually adding the correct thing. So I'm actually going to make these uh, like that. Those rows are special. Um, okay, so I think that finished up at least the change that I had, which I think sets us up now for dynamically creating based on the different row counts. Um, so remove second row duplication by adding it if number rows higher. I'm just going to say remove duplication. Messages are hard. And look at that, we actually removed 2 lines of code, so that's a good sign. Okay. So now
I think
row
we're out of our
three.
realm of discovery tree, unless we're still refactoring here.
Yeah, I think here's the thing what we can talk about, and maybe that means we go to the discovery tree is we could try to remove this being a guard clause and move it to something else, but I guess we don't have a reason to do that. So let's go to the discovery tree. That's probably a good idea.
All
Okay.
right, so we hard coded. We did do that. We added the two middle numbers. We did that. So input three looks like it's good.
Yep. So I think we do input 4, and that again causes us now to deal with. We still have a hard coded thing in there, which is that we're directly dependent upon the second row variable in row 3.
Okay. So do we want to do a hard coded solution?
Yes, I think we do a hard coded solution, and then we let the test triangulate, which will help us identify what is
Hmm.
the solution to the problem.
I'm just gonna simplify this so I don't have to use calculated value.
Yeah.
And this is not orange. This is yellow because we're not there yet.
And can we look up at the tree just for a second too?
You mean this tree?
Yeah, so just so we can see what that 4 is the.
4 is the third.
So 1331 is what we're looking for. Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, let's do it. 1331.
Is it my turn to write the test?
I
I can't remember.
think it was mine, but it doesn't matter.
Okay, go ahead.
Let's see if your clipboard works. Nope.
It does work.
I saw you copy. I was wondering if I could steal your clipboard, but that's probably for a better thing. Okay, produces fourth row. Row count 4, and then it's going to be first, second row, and then this row is 1, 3, 3, 1. I think 1, 2. Yeah.
Yep.
Run that test. Oh, look at this! Now the test is actually starting to look like the triangle. That's kind of cool. And expected 1, 1, 1 to deep equal this, and that makes sense because we only in the production code line 9 and 10 are the only things adding onto it. So.
Yep.
All right, go for it.
If I duplicate and do 4, we're going to push that, and then we want to do another push of 1, 3, 3, 1.
Yep.
And so this is definitely a commit.
Yeah, and then we can do the same kind of changes with row 3. Just get rid of the duplication, and then yeah. Push. Push. That's how I think. I wish the ID kind of spoke to you. That'd make it a little more fun. Like anytime you type something wrong.
Yeah. So we do greater than or equal to. We now have an extra element. We know we don't have to do that.
Yay.
All right. So we're adding this. And why did we do this? We are removing duplication. That's why.
Yep. So I think again, I liked our second row 0, 1. And what's interesting now is we don't have a value for the third row, and I kind of like that. So would it be cool if we basically try to generate the 2 3s the same way, but actually use the values that kind of exist because of it?
So that would have to be triangle. Third row is 2
Yep.
because of the 0 index.
And then the first element 0.
Is it really the first element?
Yeah.
Plus.
Plus triangle 2 1. And then comma.
Sorry, I want to hit that.
Yeah.
Copy. And then this should be
1
2
2.
1 1 2.
And then if that works, we definitely should extract a variable because that is the most confusing thing I've ever seen.
What are you talking about? It does work.
This looks like
Switch.
this looks like
Why
what
didn't this do?
machine learning code I wrote in university. I was writing
Calculate
Python and
from
NumPy.
previous resume. Hang on, I cannot type this one. Why is row 3 referring to the second row, but fourth row is hard coded? Deloon. Yeah. Thanks, and Baker took that simplest thing that can possibly work and iterate. Yeah. So with TDD, we want to solve as simply as possible. Red green refactor.
So we're getting to the point where the system itself will basically tell us what the implementation is. And by instead of having to think, we just literally do the simplest possible thing, removing, and here we're removing hard-coded duplication with still hard-coded value, but trying to really make the algorithm kind of scream to us, here's how to solve, here's what I am. So we don't really have to think as much. Um, 'Cause thinking's hard.
Yeah, when our tests fail and tell us we broke it, it's a lot easier to know if it's good or not.
Yeah. No, we never want to have a 45-minute long debug session why nothing works. Instead, we're taking like tiny little baby steps um, that are taking us towards the solution that we want. Um, but okay, cool. So now the test pass, yeah, because we pushed. So I think now is where we're at the place where, like, I don't think we need to go any further, like if row count 5, because I really don't think 3 and 4 should be hard coded like this. They should be, we might have enough here where if we solve 3 and 4, we might solve 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, blah, blah, blah. Maybe
So
for
we
the
could
sake
take,
of,
as I say, we could do the fifth row and try to implement it because that's the pattern,
well, I was going to
right?
say we
Like,
could also change row 3 to do the same thing. Like right now we have second row, but you could actually write triangle 1. You know what I mean? We could rewrite that so it actually now looks like pure duplication. Yeah, I like that.
okay. And I actually want to commit that because it is a small thing, and I cannot type at all, man. Introduce duplication to expose pattern,
Yeah.
which I think is a really good way to call out, what we're doing. Why are we actually introducing? Well, we want to see the pattern here. What's emerging?
Yep. The other thing to note that's interesting with this pattern too is row count actually equals number of elements in the array. So 3,
Hmm.
there's 3 elements. 4, there's 4. So we can use that to our advantage.
And we
Um,
know that each starting and ending element is one. Like if you notice that, it's always 1 1 here,
yeah.
1 1 here.
So maybe it would be cool if we left line 12 alone, but started to basically introduce a generic implementation for 14. And we could even do it piece by piece if we wanted to.
Lead on. What's that first step?
So I think the first step here is, again, the 1 1 is fine. The thing that I don't like is line 17 to 18, how 2 is hard coded. So we want some sort of iteration here, I believe. Like we want a for loop. So what if we just wrapped this if statement with a for loop first? And I know that sounds crazy.
Wrap
But
this with a for loop?
yeah, if we wrap it with a for loop, just because we'll start changing this stuff in process. So for I think I have to do let for I, yeah, for I. And I about a while since I've done one of these. Yeah, so let, let's
I
not use
know.
var because that's crazy. And then for I, we're using, is it 2? Two's the, yeah, 2. So for 2, I equals 2. This is where the tests are really gonna help us here.
Yeah, for I is less
Yeah, and
than row
Steven's
count.
actually calling out a very similar thing, element minus 1. So he's basically, we need to have a running index. Um,
We do.
and
And you want to wrap this if statement. Here you go.
yes, but I don't want I row count. Or I guess, um, well, no, because well, I guess, yeah, there's no issue with that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and the
Even
test,
you don't need the index of the row, you just pass in the previous row. You don't care which row you're on, just the contents.
that's actually very true. You don't care about the row you're on. So actually, I like Steven's idea. Why don't we try his idea out? So if we control Z, get rid of the iteration for now. Because we can add it back in and it seemed to break everything.
Actually,
Get checkout dot or get reset hard.
yeah. Check out dot. Let's use our tools here.
So if we
What do I need to
extract
Command
method,
C?
actually no, if you extract variable first of second or of previous row, which is triangle at 2,
There you go.
all four
I want to
occurrences,
place
yep.
all four. Wait, why did it
Why did it
not
help
work?
you then hurt you? I don't know.
Yeah,
It's an abusive
variable.
relationship.
It is an abusive relationship. Previous row.
Can't you triangle that last? No. We probably can. We at least taking a smaller step here. We do this now. If you could you extract um if we extract method not on the triangle dot push but everything inside of it.
Extract method.
Yep, make it global and create next row. Oh, see, we're getting somewhere. And then we could even inline no, actually previous row is easy to read right now. Okay, and now let's open up create next row. Let's see what the ID did.
Yeah, and again, I'm just going to do a real quick move down, and I
Yep.
want to do a Control R here. And if we're passing, I want to. We've taken two steps. Load to commit.
Yeah, let's commit. I just wanted to see what it looked like to see if we wanted to commit.
So command 5, git add dot. So we're going to git check in, extract method.
Oh, and this pattern. Okay, yeah, this pattern's basically okay. Now it's actually super obvious what this is because we look 24, 25 just keeps going on. So we just need to know how many indexes there are. Um, yeah, length minus one is yeah, exactly. There's no. I wish there was last. I think that's one of the nice things that Lombok brings in JavaScript, along with the entire internet
Yeah, I mean, we could install Lodash.
or Lodash. What did I said? Lombok.
You said Lombok, yeah.
You can't break some Java habits.
The other thing to notice too
I
is
meant
that we
Lodash.
don't we while we have a type here, we do not have a class. So we could actually have probably we could make this triangle a class and do stuff like that. But I think we're simple here.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. I think I'm okay with keeping it primitive for just a little bit more. At least the thing at hand, the idea was, can we make 12 also dynamic? So if we look at 12 right now, um, actually, let's do this, but then we're gonna delete it. Can you do the same change we just did with
Yep.
4? Well, and we'll actually extract a different method, and then that way we can kind of look at them side by side.
The previous row is this or 21.
Yeah.
Previous row, previous row. So I'm gonna since that was mostly manual changes, we do have tests passing, so I feel good about that.
Yep.
And you
And
want
not
me to
doesn't have
extract
the push
this
inside
method.
of it. Just the creation of the row.
Ah, yeah. And
Um,
you think this is
yeah, just call it like applesauce.
applesauce.
All right, and then let's move it next to the other one.
I'm gonna do a Control R, just give us some
Yeah.
feedback. Our 2 millisecond feedback cycle. Love it.
Steven's doing it in Ruby. And yeah, uh, oh yeah, pad beginning and end with 0. That makes sense.
Just Steven, that means next Sunday you need to be our guest and you can come on and help us to do this in Ruby.
Yeah, if you want to be our guest, go for it.
Or pad the beginning and the end from Delune. I do like that. I think that's a further solution. We can pad and end with ones, and I do love that.
So yeah, if we look now, the pattern's pretty clear. It's basically like 3. So in this case, we're applesauce is create third row, and it's
So
the first
literally,
and the end, and everything else is just 0, 1. We're just going up basically. Okay. So if I'm good to just get checkout dot, and then the question is, how do we make create next row work for this?
well, if it's another function, we can export it and isolate it and start testing that.
Yeah,
You want to
that's
say
actually a
get
fair
checkout
point.
dot.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
So we have create next row.
I like that idea of let's export it and then write tests for it directly.
Yeah, so to get a small thing real quick, I kind of want to
Create.
wrap these. Yeah, create next row.
Oh, for the new ones, yeah.
Describe.
And maybe we leave with this exported. Maybe we delete it afterwards. Who knows? It's just going to help us right now. And that's all that really matters.
It is.
And it's a smaller vertical. Okay.
I've been typing a while. Do you want to write this test or do you want me
Yeah, I
to
agree
write
with
this
that.
test?
So it's so let's I guess just backfill what we have. So then we have triangulation. Is that what you want to do?
Yeah,
So creates fourth row from third. Um, so we want to expect create next row, and this row is 1, 2,
2, 1.
1, and 2 equal 1, 3, 3, 1. And that passes because we have it still hard coded. And
Yeah,
because
submit.
this, yep, we're going to say directly test create next row. That's saying y. That's okay. Okay, and then just write the failing test here. Creates third row from fourth. I think that's the thing we wanted. Or third row
Third from
from second.
second.
Second, yeah, that's better. And I know we have the second row exported, but I actually think it's going to be clear if we just do 1, 1, and 1, 2, 1. For now, we can get rid of it later. But.
No, you're fine.
That fails because Nana says no, not today,
Not Nana.
not on a Sunday. All right.
My brain just stopped working. So we can't do this because it's indexed out of range.
Yes. So I think what's hurting us right now again is we need basically like a form of iteration inside of here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so why don't we first just a simple step is create an array that's the return value. So const row equals empty array. Or actually it's an array with a 1 in it. Yeah, there we go. And now rip out 26, 27, and 28 for now. Okay. And now what we're going to want to do is we need to know the length, or basically what is this row supposed to be, which is it's going to be previous row dot length plus 1. We could pass it in too, but we have it. You don't really need it. And now we basically want to iterate through that. Yep. For I equals 1, I want to say. Because we've
Yeah,
already
because
done this here with,
we're pre-populating. Yeah.
yeah, and I is less than length.
This is a semicolon, not a colon, isn't it?
Yep. I would just let the
I need
INE
to.
generate this for you.
I
It's been a
know.
long time since I've written a for loop by hand too. Um, okay, and then why don't we do like length minus 1? So because remember, there's the other one that's at the end. So basically, this is all the inner elements, and then outside of the for loop are the two ones that are hard coded. And we have our ID, so it'll tell us if we've gotten that correct at least in the failure. Does that make sense?
No.
Okay, so on line 26 and a half. So before we do anything in the for loop, do row dot push 1. But you need parentheses, not brackets. There we go. And then you get rid of line 25, and I'll run the test. And we probably have too many.
Lots of broken.
Yeah, so just let's just run one of the tests by itself for just a second, just for quicker feedback. Run 18. Or yeah, that one. So expected 1, 1 to equal this. And now in here, we can say, yep, row.push, and it's not brackets again. If you're directly mutating it, you
Man,
need brackets. Push is a method
yeah.
on the list interface.
Toast, my brain just stopped.
That's okay. This is why pairing's useful. So now we basically say previous row. Um,
I.
is it I? Well, we're starting at 1, so it would be I minus 1. And then plus previous row I. I don't know. This is what's nice about tests. I don't know. Maybe this works. Maybe this doesn't. And then you want to do length minus 1. Otherwise, we're going to get a. Yep. So now do length minus 1 on line 24.
So why do we have the plus one here?
Okay. Uh, instead of length then on line 24, do previous row dot length. And just trust me. I also don't know what I'm doing, but the test will help us tell us if we're doing it correctly.
Okay. That
Okay,
passes.
so that does work.
Let's run the whole thing just to see where we're at.
And they all work.
We're all
Okay,
green.
sweet. So now delete line 23 because we don't need it.
Delete line
Um,
23. We
and
do
now
not
let's
need it.
push. Let's commit and push before we do anything because we've technically solved everything.
And we have been.
And then we can figure out what we did. This is what's nice about triangulation and test first is why does this work?
Uh,
Adam asks. I don't know. Now we're gonna figure it out. You can experiment very freely. Um, so again, the previous row length is less than ours, and because we're doing I less than, that means we're doing 1 less than the actual length of the previous row.
yes.
And because we're doing I minus 1 because we're starting. So we could actually start at 0 if we wanted to. That might actually be another nice change. I know we started at 1 on line 23. If we do I equals 0 and just make it, you know, yeah, we'll have to add the minus 1 then. Or I know you got to get rid of I minus 1 on line 24. You have I minus 1 there still.
Oh, here. Yeah.
Yes, and then I plus 1 because we're adding the first element of the previous row and the second element. And run the test. We probably, because now there's a different. Yeah, so now you have to do previous row dot length minus 1.
Can we like this better?
I like this better just for line 24 because it's easier to think from the beginning. We're saying, oh, add the first element of the previous row and then the second element. And then it'll
Mm.
be the second element plus the third element. The thing that's
Okay.
confusing is the previous row dot length minus 1. But that's just because we never want to start at the last element of the list. We want to start at the element before that.
Well, we're all green, so I want to commit here.
Yeah, for sure.
Refactor to start at beginning of previous row.
And you wrote and start at beginning.
And I think we're approaching our hour. So I think this might be a good place to potentially stop or no?
I'd like to. I'm good to just finish. If we replace line 12 and 16, like I think we're done. To be completely honest.
Leaves line 12 and 16. Okay.
So see how on line 12 we're still triangle dot pushing stuff. We can do the same thing here.
And previous row is in triangle 1.
Yep.
And then I'll inline this just to help. Okay, that's a good refactor.
Yeah. And now, like I said, I literally think we're done. Unless there's refactors where if we just now iterate instead of line 12, 15, if we use iteration, we're done. We're done.
Yeah. So that another for loop.
Yep.
All right, for I,
For
and what do
I
you want to say?
equals
2?
2. Yep.
Row
I
count.
less than row count.
And then it's going to be
I.
I, right?
Yep.
And so we think that is the delete, and I can run all our tests. Uh-oh, we quit unexpectedly.
You are
What was
missing a
that?
parentheses.
I'm missing the parentheses.
Okay. And I believe this is because we have the wrong index. So now instead of 2, set that to 3 actually and see what happens. So expected 1, 1 produces third row. And for create next row, do 3 I minus 1 on line 13.
Ta-da!
This is always fun about running index. It's always confusing. Um, um, oh, it's got to be I is greater than or less than or equal to row count. Again, row count, we want to have that many rows. And we want to start at 3 because that's...
I think I'm going to start at 2.
Okay, if we start at 2, then it's not greater than or equal to. And I think that's a good idea. So get rid of then... So you get rid of that. And now get rid of the greater than or equal to, which I think is what we had at one point anyway.
This is less than or equal to, not greater than.
Oh, sorry, that's what I meant. Yeah, less than. I is less than row count. Nope. And now we're yeah. So if you just think about this for a second, so 2 is less than 3. So that means we would then create next row for triangle 2. And then 3
Which,
is not less than 3.
oh, triangle 2 is not right. We do need triangle. We need minus 1 here. Triangle 2 is the third row.
Oh
There we
yeah,
go.
because of indexes. Oh, I hate
Yep.
0 with indexes. It's always, yeah, it's that running joke. Okay, cool. So that makes it work.
No, that's awesome.
And this is where, like,
Okay.
I'm really bad at all that, like, index crap too. So having tests, I don't have to really be good at it. Same thing like regex. If you got tests, you know, you can throw the regex you want in there, and just if you have enough good test cases, you can basically treat it as a black box.
Yeah.
If we wanted to, we could basically look at one of the lower rows in Pascal's triangle and just see if we made it work. If you have time, otherwise we could call it too. Doesn't matter to me.
I do not have time.
Okay, then let's call it.
Yeah. Thank you all for joining us. That was Pascal's Triangle. We can definitely maybe catch up right at the beginning of this the next time to see if we want to double check row 5, 6, 7, whatever row we care about. Make sure we
Yeah,
implemented it correctly. And we'll pick a new problem.
yeah, super fun. I love this because I don't think we really thought about this solution at all. This is another good step of
Nope.
why simple as possible, taking small steps, and also pairing with somebody. And thanks to Steven in the chat and some other people in chat calling stuff out because that helped too. It's just so much easier than having to be a genius computer science to solve these problems.
Yeah. All right. See you all next week.
Catch you later, Bill and Ted.